Hi there. Please do come in, have a seat. I was just double checking your file here. So it looks like you've been having some ongoing issues, is that right? Okay. Well, do you want to tell me a little bit more about it? Mm-hmm. Okay, so a lot of trouble sleeping. Uh-huh. And some blackout periods. Now, are these completely void of any memory whatsoever, or are there perhaps images that you are recalling from either memory or potentially precognition? Precognition. It's just a fancy way of saying like future predictions. No really with precognition. Okay, but you do have flashes of what you think might be memories. Okay, and how far back would you say those memories stretch? Okay, so just fairly currently during the time that you are in a trance, let's say, for right now. Okay, and not all the way back, like centuries or anything like that. Okay. Anything else? Any other physical symptoms that you're experiencing? Okay, so none, really. Well, we'll just check you out just in case. I know sometimes things will gradually appear over time. Certainly, anytime a creature is transitioning, but you yourself look relatively normal, so I take it that you are not undead yet. No, I didn't think so. You have too much pink in your cheeks. But you don't seem to be any particular creature as of yet, so I take it that you probably are in a transition stage. So it's great that you came in during this time, and hopefully we can get to the bottom of exactly what you are, or perhaps what you're going to be. How does that sound? Great. I do need to get some a little bit more information from you, just put in the system. I know we had some work sent over from your last doctor, but it seems like they kind of came up on some dead ends. And I just want to make sure that we are up to date on all of our files. All right. Name. And what's your birth date? Okay, and your parents, were they any sort of mythical creatures, or have they inherited any sort of bloodborne transition, anything like that? No? Okay. So you're the first in your family. Okay. Well, sometimes parents and grandparents like to continue traditions of change in the family. Some are better at going about informing their children of this, but others are not, and that's how they end up here. But we will figure out exactly if that's you or not. Okay, and when did you say you started to notice these blackout periods? So that actually has been for some time now. And it is just the regular flashes of memory and not the precognition or retrograde. Okay. And do you have any allergies? None that you're aware of? Okay. Well, if you've developed any over time, we'll certainly figure it out. And Do you attend church or any other sort of holy spaces or anything like that? Okay. And how often? Just kind of during the real big holidays. And did you notice anything then? Okay. Not really. No, it's no problem. Certainly not gonna stop us from figuring out what's going on. Okay. I think that's probably all right for now. So I'm gonna have to get a little bit closer to you to do more of a physical examination, if you don't mind. I'm not going to be doing anything painful today that I'm aware of. Sometimes we do need to test out different allergies, and sometimes that can be a bit uncomfortable, or a topical allergen can be a little bit irritating. So just want to give you a heads up on that, but otherwise I think we should be all right, okay? Let's see. I just want to give a gentle feel to make sure there's no new lumps or bumps, any sort of horns that might be right underneath the surface and coming in. But just turn a little bit. Okay, on the other side. Well, it doesn't look like you're developing any horns or antennae, so that narrows it down a little bit. Okay. Now I just want to gently press to make sure there's no new facial developments. Sometimes you can feel the canines coming in through the upper lips, but you'll be able to detect them just right underneath the surface. And if this was some sort of illness that you were experiencing, your lymph nodes and that type of thing typically swell much as they would in our regular lives before the transition, showing that we are trying to heal ourselves. But honestly, I don't really feel a whole lot. Any of this hurt? No pain or anything like that? Okay. I'm just gonna check you for some bites, just in case somebody snuck in. But usually, I can typically smell that on somebody, or if you've been claimed by another vampire, we do generally know that. Okay. Now I'm just gonna check the arms. And your hands. Okay. Other one. Now, have you noticed any sort of new developments with your physical features? I know I asked before, but any sort of changes or things that I might miss? Okay. Does any of that hurt? Just checking. The nail beds, they do look a little thick compared to human. So you might have some new growth there. And just check the other So yeah, it definitely feels like you are developing there, certainly. That could mean it could be transitioning into some sort of talon, or if you are in fact undead, potentially a zombie, but usually signs of more decomposition, if that were the case, would be much more aggressive at this point, so that would be really unusual. However, it could be vampiric. They tend to withhold until you've consumed your latest meal, and then they will grow out, and that's just to give yourself some easier puncture to different parts of the body, and also for scratching. But I'm not convinced that's it just yet. Okay. Do you mind if I take a listen? Now just take a really deep breath in. Okay. And one more time. Good. And again. And one more time. Well, your lungs sound absolutely wonderful. Very healthy there. And your heartbeat seems to be relatively normal, but let me just check your pulse really quick. Yeah, you've got a pretty healthy pulse. It might be slightly fast, but that could mean any number of things. So, okay. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at your eyes. I just want to make sure that they are adapting to light. All right, see how your pupils are dilating. I just want to make sure that any sort of changes that might be happening there, any sort of development in a third eyelid or anything like that, that we get in close and see. Okay? So, okay. And look up. All right. The other eye. And go ahead and look up again. Okay. And I'm just gonna give you a little flash of light from both directions just to make sure that your pupils are dilating appropriately, okay? Looks good. That looks really good. All right, and if you just want to just watch this little cross. Okay, that looks good. Right. Interesting. And if you just want to follow my fingers, okay? And just let me know when they get out of your vision, okay? Okay, good. And now this way. Good. So that all seems relatively normal. Let me just check out your eyelids here. You haven't gone swimming recently, have you? Okay. I didn't think so, but sometimes I like to ask in case there's any sort of amphibious or reptilian lids developing. Sometimes you'll notice getting in and out of the water. You're able to obviously see much better in the water, but okay. Go ahead and look up. Good. And not down. Excellent, excellent. Okay, and the other eye. And now look up. And down. Okay. I don't see any new development there. But, that's not to say that it couldn't possibly be growing in. But typically there starts to become small signs, or the blood vessels in your eye can sometimes grow and intensify or reduce. But honestly, that all looks pretty normal to me. So, what I'm going to do now is check a few items with you. These are typically tokens or items that will cause a bit of a reaction to certain creatures, so we can narrow down a bit more easily what this exactly might be. So have you found yourself getting any more of a large amounts of hunger, or kind of a really ferocious appetite with anything on occasion? Okay. Any particular types of food? All right. Usually pretty bloody raw meats. Okay. That can certainly narrow it down a lot. Which I kind of have some things in mind, but let's go ahead and run through the items, just because depending if you are transitioning into what I assume, this will help more finding out regionally where you might be located, because obviously sometimes things that expel ghosts in one area might not work for a ghost in another region, so it's good to be well versed and know exactly where or what species you might be. Okay? Wonderful. So let's see. I'm just going to start with an easier one. I can take these off first. Shouldn't be needing those. We're just going to start with fire. I did see you looking at the candles earlier, but an open flame and a close flame can sometimes really kick things off. Okay, are you ready? All right, and you just tell me if there's any sort of large amount of fear that develops, okay? Great. How does that feel? Nothing too bad? Okay. We're going to try that again. Just in case. Still okay? All right. And one last time. think you are all clear on that, which is excellent. Now, this next one can sometimes sting a little bit on the skin. It's holy water. Yes. I like to put it in a mist form. It prevents you from getting too much on the body or topically. You know, it prevents a lot of long-term or intense damage. It being extremely fine mist will just touch the surface, so you'll be able to know if it's something that is going to affect you dramatically or not without doing really any sort of intense damage to the body. Okay? Are you feeling anything right now? Any sort of fear? How's your fear? On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being none at all, and 10 being the scaredest you've been in your entire life, or the most scared you've been in your entire life. Okay, so like a 2. It's probably the anticipation of it. Okay. Are you ready? Okay. Feel all right? Okay, good. Okay, you don't seem to be having a reaction, which is great. Excellent. So, I think we can mostly rule out holy water, but let me just look a little bit closer to make sure that there's no blistering or anything like that happening. But usually that shows up pretty quickly. Okay. Yeah, you look all right. Okay. Well, that's great. This one might seem a little bit unusual, and it's usually more of a side effect for things as far as divination goes. So this is just a typical pack of tarot. How do you feel around it right now? Feel okay? All right. You don't want to hold it or anything? Would you like to pick a card? Okay. And how is your fear level right now? Okay, about a 5. So a little bit higher. Okay. Do you want to touch? No? Okay. No, it's no problem. You don't have to. Absolutely not. I'm just here checking. Like I said, this is mostly kind of at this point to narrow down regionally certain things, and also to narrow down exactly what species you are of certain things. So I just want to make sure I'm doing my due diligence and checking all of them. So this next one, this is just a pocket watch. I'm just going to ask you to hold this for a minute, okay? It is gold, so this is kind of a 2-for-1 item. If you have a sensitivity to gold, obviously let me know. It will certainly sting the hand. You will know immediately. It's usually not one that doesn't affect you right away. Okay? Go ahead and hold that. Does it feel alright? Feels comfortable? Okay, just a little bit longer. Alright. So we know it's not any sort of curse related to time. And you are not affected by gold, which is excellent. That one can be a bit tricky, but lucky for you, no worries there. Now, this one, normally people can sense in the room, but it's a Bible. How do you feel around this right now? Okay, and your fear level? Okay. Alright, so it is growing a bit. And now if I were to read from this, how would you feel about that? Okay, and your fear level around that? Okay. Would you mind if I tried to read a verse? How much is your fear level? 7, okay. I do not need to read. I don't have to do that. If it's gonna make you too uncomfortable, don't worry about it. Did you want to try to hold it? Are you sure? I'm not gonna make you do anything you don't want to do. But if you want to give it an attempt. Okay, too uncomfortable for you? That is absolutely fine. I can go ahead and put it away, okay? No issue there. No issue at all. I honestly, I really think I kind of have this narrowed down for you, but I think just gonna try one more thing, if that's all right with you. Okay. Let's see. Actually, maybe 2 more things. These ones should be easy, though. Okay. So this is a ring with a piece of turquoise in it. You could have a sensitivity to the turquoise. Obviously, you won't have a sensitivity to the gold in it. We know that. So if you just want to go ahead and hold that in your hands for a minute. Okay. And your fear level? Quite high. Okay. Yeah, no, feel free. Yeah, I can take it. It's going back in the pocket. So you definitely do have a sensitivity to turquoise. It shouldn't be a problem for you. I can't imagine that you would come across a ton of turquoise in the future, but let's try this last one, which I think will honestly be the probably most potent of all. Are you ready? Okay. So this, I can see you are already having a reaction. Okay. So this is silver. Now there is a group of... Did you want to try to hold it? No? I don't think you need to be quite frank. But there is a group of undead, cursed species that do have an allergy to silver that is quite bad. So I would encourage you to avoid silver jewelry, any sort of plated items in that way. And just in general, that is going to be something that is going to affect you. Now, what I believe is happening to you, and if you don't mind, I'm just going to take one more look at your hands and your nail beds. Okay. All right. So, judging from your appearance here today, from the fact that you've been having blackouts with some partial memory, the insatiable hunger to raw bloody meats, the allergy to silver, I believe that you are transforming into a lichen or a werewolf. Now, that being said, I would avoid probably most religious spaces or sites, just because even though it's not great, you could probably tolerate, if you had to in a case of an emergency, be around that type of thing. But obviously it does heighten your fear quite a bit, and that honestly is probably just going to grow over time. Now, your particular type, judging from the turquoise, is more than likely a version of a skinwalker. Are you familiar with that? Okay. So what that is it is a type of werewolf that primarily comes from cultures of indigenous Americans, and these are often created. So my guess is that you probably had an encounter with one. Maybe you were bitten months ago, or perhaps cursed by another one in the past for some reason or another. It is honestly very rare for a skinwalker to take the form of another individual that they have not killed. So I would say double check your friends and family members, because this is probably somebody that you know that has affected you, or that you know. So I would keep my eyes and ears out, but certainly because your patterns tend to be a bit chaotic right now, it doesn't appear that you are necessarily affected by the moon phases. So you do have a bit more control over that, but because this is relatively new to your physical being, your body is still making adjustments around your general adaptation to it. So that's what's causing these periods of blackouts and the flashbacks of memory. They will, however, become more clear in time, to the point where you remember what you've done in between those periods of waking and blackouts. So it will honestly not even be a transition anymore. It's just your own body's way of adapting and not causing a mental break for you during that time. The other thing that it could potentially be, but I feel like is less likely. Let's see if I can find it in here. This is one of my favorite medical texts. the other thing that could potentially be happening, I think this is probably less likely, but much of the time that people make these types of transitions, it could be because of a cursed item that you have. Oftentimes a ring. It does not have to be a ring. It does need to be something that you could wear on your persons. These usually, however, come with an ointment that you cover yourself in or apply to the body in some way. But unless you have changed any sort of products that you use, things that you wash your clothes in, anything like that, shampoos, soaps, that type of thing, lotions, not particularly, then honestly, I don't think this is it. But just in case, if you find yourself in the future where you're like, oh my gosh, I remember, usually these types of curses are applied with an ointment and some sort of token. They can also be done with a witch jar, but it doesn't sound like that's the case for you. These particular curses also tend to go with the moon phase as well. So, but as I said, I don't believe this is the particular type of lichen that you are. I think it's much more likely because of the turquoise that you are in fact more than likely a skinwalker. Okay? And quite frankly, this is going to be a lifelong adventure for you. It does seem like it's not that serious, but you will notice changes in yourself. But it's also why some of your symptoms have been recurrent and regressive at the same time, where obviously if you notice some days you wake up a bit more hairy or bloody. I did notice you had a couple leaves in your hair when you came in today, so obviously recently you've had a transition, but just rest assured that these changes are completely natural. They are nothing to worry about. You will want to check out your friends and family, like I said before, because one of them is probably another guised skinwalker or werewolf. And, if you do have any sort of new symptoms that pop up that you are uncomfortable or unfamiliar with, or can't seem to find any research on, feel free to stop in. But I think, honestly, that this is just going to be the start of a wonderful journey for you, okay? Great. I'm so glad that you stopped in today, and hopefully I will see you again in the future. All right. Take care.